Welcome back. Day 23 of Hammwerween, and we're going to be talking today about one of their adventure films for a couple of reasons. One, I wanted to try and cover, a few of the more offbeat types of Hammer films, so not just purely horror. And two, specifically adventure, because when I said earlier in the month on the communities tab, are there any no promises films that people would like to cover this month on this series? A few people said Captain Clegg, please. I've already done that. So I mean, it was a couple of years ago, so a good few a lot of you wouldn't have been subscribed when I only had a couple of hundred subscribers back then. What I will do is I'll link it below, so you essentially get a bonus episode, a pilot for this, and a lengthy review of Captain Clegg. So enjoy. That'll be the top comment in the comment section. I'll pin it so you can watch that as a bonus should you like. So because I couldn't pick that, and I've already done a video on the Robin Hoods as well, I wanted to pick something adventure-y to make up to those people. So it was a toss-up between this and Devil Ship Pirates, and I plumbed for this. Why not? So as always, plot synopsis and then review. Nice easy one this. It's not got a lot of plot to get in the way of the movie. We're dealing with the Huguenots who were real Puritan Protestants in France. The real, don't smell, you'll go to hell type. All fire and brimstone with no pageantry whatsoever, dressed in black. You know the type. Real Calvinist stuff. They are fleeing France from persecution from the then Catholic establishment, and they go to Devon, which unfortunately is not Devon in England, which would be rather fun. They could get some nice ambrosia custard and clotted cream. No, they go to Devon in the Caribbean. So that's all covered in the opening crawl of the film. Skip forward a few generations, and we meet our star, played by Kerwin Matthews, who people will know from Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, Travels of Gulliver, Jack the Giant Slayer. For a while, he was the kind of adventure star for those kind of films, Harryhausen and whatnot. He is having a romantic tryst outside of wedlock, and the local villagers, again being extreme Puritans, don't take kindly to that. So they haul him off to be held on trial. His girl that he has the relationship with, she falls in a lake while trying to escape from the people who've arrested him. He plays Jonathan, by the way, Jonathan Standing. But his girl falls in the lake and she's eaten by piranhas that are in the water. An effect achieves to show the piranhas bubbling away by crew members throwing marbles into the lake, which is rather fun. So we do see the blood rising to the surface, and hence that's the blood river of the title. It's a little bit flimsy, but it works. So he's put on trial, Jonathan, for cavorting outside of wedlock. He is spared because the main kind of judge, the leader of the town, the civic leader, is his father, Jason Standing, as played by Andrew Keir, who I just adore. Probably mostly because of Quatermass in the Pit, but he's the best thing about Dracula, Prince of Darkness too, for example. So he spares his life but exiles him to a penal colony for 15 years. So he goes to the penal colony, Jonathan, but escapes. And he is captured slash rescued by a bunch of pirates. And when they establish that he's from the lineage of the Huguenots, they say, well, no, they had treasure. So tell you what, take us back to the village and we won't kill you and we won't kill anyone. We'll just, we'll be on our merry way. Because we're pirates, you can trust us. This is where things get a bit more interesting because the pirate captain, Captain LaRoche, is played by Christopher Lee, giving a remarkably fun performance. He's having the time of his life, but we'll go into that more in the review. He has, as all good pirate flicks, certainly in the adventure style, should have a motley crew with him. In this occasion, he has perhaps most notably Peter Arne playing Hench, his lieutenant, and Michael Ripper as Mac. Michael Ripper always got small roles for Hammer, but for this and Captain Clegg, again linked below in the top comment, Michael Ripper gets a lot more to do. So it's really fun for a Hammer fan who, I mean, Michael Ripper was in more Hammers than anyone, and hardly ever got a big part. So it's kind of fun to see him get to do a lot more, which is another reason I wanted to cover this one in particular. So the pirates approach the village in Devon, and the villagers are pre-warned thanks to Tom, who's a friend of, no, excuse me, thanks to Henry, who's a friend of Jonathan and has had word that pirates are ahead and they're coming to the village. So the village defends itself, gets ready for battle. They are invaded. They do have to give up, but nobody seems to know where the haloed treasure is. Does it even exist? Well, Christopher Lee's Captain LaRoche is convinced that it does, but nobody in the town is willing to give up the secrets to the extent that Christopher Lee gives the classic villain ultimatum: two will die every 24 hours until you give up the treasure. He has a French accent in this one. So that continues. People are sacrificed because no one will give up the treasure. And we're kind of left with the notion that the treasure might not exist. Although I think I mean, I think it's aimed at a younger audience in general where they took this film. Although originally it did receive an X rating before being cut down. But to me, it's very much obvious where the treasure is. There's a particular object in town that is zoomed in on from the camera's POV many, many times, which kind of tells you that's the treasure. It's right there. So, battle ensues over whether the treasure exists or not, and then the pirates do indeed find out where the treasure is because they too, Christopher Lee, like me, has said, I've seen the camera shots, and clearly that's where the treasure is. So they try and escape with the treasure. The villagers, led by the aforementioned Henry, a friend of Kevin Matthews, they lead a counterattack against the pirates who have taken the treasure with them. From then on, it's very much a kind of survival film on behalf of the pirates, having to get off the island. And the villagers, of course, know the island and they can set up traps quickly and they know their own kind of survival methods. So the pirates outnumber them, but they have local knowledge, which the pirates don't have, leading to a reasonably tense finale, which I won't spoil. Because again, underseen films in this series, I don't think, even though I don't think there's much here that you can't guess, I don't think it's my right to spoil for you. So, in terms of review, this is fun. It is no Captain Clegg, but that's, such a high standard, an impossibly high standard, which is just an absolute favorite of mine, that film. This features, I mean, Kerwin Matthews again is the name because of Sinbad, which was a worldwide smash. But he's boring. He's dull as dishwater. Him and Henry, the two heroes of the film, completely forgettable. Henry's played by Glenn Corbett. He would go on to be in, I mean, I know him best from the original Star Trek, in which he plays Zefram Cochrane in an episode, which would later be played by James Cromwell in First Contact. But this isn't a Star Trek show, so but I do love Star Trek, as you can tell. So they're dull as dishwater. They are completely out of their element, and they're clearly there with an eye on the American market and the international market who loved Sinbad's kind of movies. So get the guy from Sinbad in. He's a guarantee of success. Christopher Lee, meanwhile, is still in this period where Hammer don't think he's a star. They think he's a talent and he's a good villain and a good monster, but they don't think he's a star. So he's taking the opportunity to play this as arch as possible. Never camp, never over the top. He looks inward quite a lot. The captain could be very cartoonish, but he looks inwards. He's very soulful and meaningful captain. Yeah, he does a few of the cliched things. Every 24 hours someone would die. He has to be the disciplinarian on the ship, like every ship's captain, but particularly the pirate. So there's a few cliched scenes that come from this kind of thing. But Christopher Lee's playing it with such intensity, and you can see that there's a lot ticking behind his, well, I would say eyes, but he's only got one. He's got the eye patch. He's clad all in black, which gives him a unique look compared to everyone else's over the top color. Mako Ripper, fantastic performance. Again, he's so enjoying having a role to play in a Hammer film, not just a barkeep and whatnot. He's hamming it up something rotten. He's having a gay old time. He's more over the top than he was in Captain Clegg, in which he also had a large part. Again, link below, third time I'll mention it. But he's really enjoying having a much larger role, and he's just playing it as if he's won the lottery, to be honest. He's having an absolute blast. It's great to watch. And for a Hammer fan to see Michael Ripper get to do it, it's just, yeah, that's worth the price of admission for me. Oliver Reed has a more intense pirate, Brocare. He doesn't get a lot to do, to be honest. He's really there for that brooding intensity that Oliver Reed just brings naturally. Peter Arne as Hench, he's more of the right hand man for Captain LaRoche. And he's a bit more interesting, but not terribly much. Andrew Keir's character, Jason Standing, so the father who has to exile the son, and then the father who has to protect the village. He's underwritten slightly too, but there's an interesting character there that Andrew Keir's playing, I think, more than the script is giving him. So the script was originally by Jimmy Sangster. It's not one of his best, and it was rewritten by John Hunter and John Geiling, who also directs the film. But Andrew Keir's performance gives a sense of the tortured father who has to be the Puritan, has to be the leader. If I don't discipline my son extremely, then what authority do I have over this village? But it's my son. So he is playing it as a very tortured individual, being pulled between faith and fatherhood, which I think he's doing more than the script has actually given him. So Andrew Keir, again, phenomenal actor. You'll even see a young Dennis Waterman in here for a few moments, which is rather fun. And then again, like a few of these films that I've talked about this week, the cinematography at this point by Arthur Grant is fantastic. It looks just so much more than the film's budget. I mean, it's a pirate film without a ship, just like Captain Clegg, because they can do interiors and use a little bit of stock footage, but they can't afford even to license a ship that's been built for another project, maybe an American thing. So it's a pirate film without a ship, but you never notice it so much because they do everything that you expect from this kind of film and more to make it interesting. Scenes of them traipsing through a kind of swampy environment right up to their, I mean, it's up to Christopher Lee's chest, so you can imagine it nearly covers Michael Ripper's full head because he was much shorter than Christopher Lee. Poor Michael having to wade through that. Oliver Reed got a terrible eye infection from having to do that over and over, walk through this horrible swampy water. And it was filmed all over Black Park Country, um, um, uh, down in Wexham, Buckinghamshire way, and then there's the Penal Colony, which is filmed in Surrey. Would be using quite a few Doctor Who's. There's a few points where you can see that's the set from Brides of Dracula in the Penal Colony, and that's the set from Curse of the Werewolf. But that's part of the Hammer charm, really. That is absolutely 100% part of the charm. I can't recommend this massively because I think you'd need to be into old school adventure films. But I do think for a Christopher Lee fan and for a Michael Ripper fan, this is very highly recommended for their performances. I don't think the film altogether is that adventurous. It's not that exciting, and our lead is intensely boring. Kerwin Matthews, he's not Sinbad here, believe me. But it's a really fun Sunday matinee kind of thing that's recommended from that point of view. Again, it's not Captain Clegg, fourth time, like below. It's nowhere near that quality. But Christopher Lee's performance with Michael Ripper alongside him is enough to be getting on with to fill 90 minutes of entertainment, even if it's a one-off watch and you never really think of it again. I think this is still well worth your time for that one-off watch. But again, do it on a bank holiday Monday or something. Don't stick this on the Friday night. It won't work. Do it on a rainy Sunday, a nice lazy Sunday. Get some ice cream and whatnot and just sit back and enjoy it in the afternoon. It's perfect for that kind of thing. Well, my dears, that'll do us for today. Join me tomorrow, won't you? Because we're going to have Curse of the Werewolf tomorrow, which will be fun. And then Plague of the Zombies. And then I can't remember what's after that, sorry. But regardless, it'll be world class and well worth your time. You can't beat it. You just can't beat it. So, a mild recommendation today in which the performances are more interesting than the story itself, except for the leads because they're remarkably dull. But again, for Christopher Lee, so if you want a good villainous pirate film, this is the one for you. Absolutely. Except for Captain Clegg. Fifth time, link below. So I shall see you tomorrow, my dears. Any comments on the film? Any questions? Stick them below. And remember, don't have nightmares.